Create file description. Creating Part 1 of the Sci-Fi Story. Path, MNT, user data, outputs, the Council, deceived humanity, Part 1.md, file, text. The Council deceived humanity. Now we face their wrath. Part 1, the summons. The massive Galactic Council station loomed in the viewport, a structure resembling a crystalline star with 7 enormous arms extending into the void. Ambassador Marcus Reynolds stood at the bridge of Earth's diplomatic vessel, the Emissary, his weathered face betraying no emotion despite the knot tightening in his stomach. After 3 weeks of travel through the quantum pathways of deep space, they had arrived at humanity's judgment. Receiving transmission from Galactic Council Control, announced Lieutenant Davis, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. They're granting us immediate docking clearance. That's unusual, sir. Protocol typically requires a 48-hour verification period. Reynolds straightened his formal diplomatic uniform, smoothing the blue fabric emblazoned with Earth's unified emblem. Unusual indeed, Lieutenant. They seem eager to see us, now are eager to be done with us, muttered Security Chief Thomas, who stood rigidly beside the ambassador. The emissary glided toward the designated docking port on the nearest arm of the station. Through the viewport, Reynolds could see hundreds of vessels from across the galaxy, some organic-looking, others geometric, and many defying human understanding of engineering. Earth had only joined the galactic community 8 years ago, and despite rapid advancement, humanity remained newcomers on this ancient stage. 30 minutes later, Reynolds walked alone through towering corridors lined with beings from 1,000 worlds. Council regulations specified that species under judgment could send only one representative into the chamber. The rest of his team, scientists, diplomats, and security personnel, would remain aboard their ship, monitoring through his ocular feed. The judgment chamber doors towered 20 meters high, carved from what appeared to be a single piece of iridescent material. They parted silently as Reynolds approached, revealing a vast circular room with a ceiling displaying a real-time map of the galaxy. Earth, a tiny blue dot in the unfashionable western spiral arm, pulsed with ominous red light. 17 alien representatives sat in a semicircle on elevated platforms, their features ranging from vaguely humanoid to utterly incomprehensible. Reynolds recognized a few species: the crystalline Ardani, the gelatinous Mbutu collective, and the insectoid Vex. Others remained unknown despite his extensive briefings. At the center sat High Counselor Varix, a tall, slender being with silvery skin and 4 arms. The universal translator in Reynolds' ear crackled to life as Varix spoke. The original language a series of melodic tones. Ambassador Reynolds of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council on charges of violation of Council Directive 5729. How do you respond? A Reynolds maintained his diplomatic composure. High Counselor, with all due respect, Earth has received no notification of Directive 5729. I request clarification before responding to these charges. A murmur rippled through the assembled representatives. Varix's expression remained impassive, but something flickered in those large, pupilless eyes. Directive 5729 prohibits the development of quantum displacement technology by Level 3 civilizations. Earth was classified as Level 3 upon first contact and remains so. Your scientists have nonetheless developed this technology in direct violation of our laws. Reynolds felt a chill run through him. Earth's breakthrough in quantum displacement had occurred just 3 months ago and had been kept strictly confidential. How did the Council know? High Counselor, Earth never received notification of such restrictions. Under Section 12 of the admission protocols, new member species must be formally notified of all applicable directives. Your notification was sent and received 7.4 standard cycles ago, stated a bulbous creature to Varix's left. I have personally reviewed all communications between Earth and the Council, Reynolds countered. No such directive was ever received. Your administrative oversights are not the concern of this Council. Varix dismissed with a wave of one slender hand. The evidence of violation is clear. Reynolds noticed something odd. The Council's procedure differed subtly from the documented protocols he had studied. The verification phase had been skipped entirely, and the normal advisory panel was absent. As the council debated among themselves in a cacophony of translated voices, a small figure approached Reynolds from behind. A junior aide from the Vex delegation, an insectoid being no larger than a child, moved with deliberate casualness beside him. "They lie," came a whispered voice in his earpiece. "They've been planning this for decades. The deception runs deeper than you know," the aide discreetly pressed something into Reynolds' hand, a small crystal data storage device, before scurrying away as though the interaction had never occurred. Varix's voice cut through the chamber, silencing all others. "The Council has reached its decision. Earth will be immediately isolated by a dimensional barrier, cutting it off from interstellar travel and communication for 500 standard cycles. This quarantine will ensure your dangerous technological development does not threaten galactic stability." "This is outrageous," Reynolds protested, calculating how much time he needed to stall. His team aboard the emissary had been monitoring the feed. They would be preparing for emergency departure. Earth demands the right to present evidence in its defense as guaranteed by the Charter of Admission. And that right is superseded by Security Protocol 17 when dealing with dangerous technological violations, Varix stated coldly. "Security, escort the Earth representative to detention while the barrier is established." Sleek drones detached from the chamber walls, moving toward Reynolds. He had seconds to act. "Before I am detained, I invoke the right of final statement," Reynolds declared loudly, recalling an obscure provision he had memorized, a last-ditch diplomatic maneuver. The drones hesitated, their programming requiring them to honor traditional protocols. In that moment of confusion, Reynolds activated the device hidden in his sleeve, a quantum pulse disruptor that his security team had insisted he carry despite diplomatic regulations. A wave of energy rippled outward, temporarily disabling the nearest systems. Alarms blared as Reynolds sprinted toward the service corridor he had mentally mapped during his approach. Behind him, Council representatives shouted orders as security protocols engaged. "Ambassador, emergency extraction route uploaded to your lens display," came Lieutenant Davis's voice in his ear. "The emissary is powering up. We have 12 minutes before station security locks us down." Reynolds followed the glowing path superimposed on his vision, ducking through maintenance tunnels and service passages. His diplomatic training had included extraction scenarios, but he had never expected to use them at the heart of the Galactic Council itself. He reached a maintenance airlock, where Thomas waited with an environment suit. "Council vessels are mobilizing." "Sir," Thomas reported as he helped Reynolds into the suit. "We need to move now." Minutes later, they were aboard the emissary, which detached from the station as Council warships moved to intercept. Captain Lin engaged the quantum drive before they cleared the docking arm, a dangerous maneuver that could have sheared the ship in half, but caught the Council forces unprepared. The emissary slipped into quantum space as energy weapons fire dissipated behind them. In the ship's secure conference room, Reynolds placed the mysterious data crystal on the table before his senior staff. "The Council has deliberately deceived Earth," he stated grimly. "We need to find out why, and we need to warn home before that barrier is established." Davis activated the ship's communication array. "No response from Earth, sir. I think we're already too late. Something's blocking all quantum communications." Reynolds stared at the data crystal, knowing it held answers they desperately needed. "Set course for the Proxima outpost," he ordered. "We need to get this information to Earth through alternative channels. The Council has made a critical mistake. They've shown their hand too soon." As the emissary raced through quantum space, Reynolds couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just become entangled in a game of galactic deception that had been playing out for centuries. What did the Council truly fear about humanity, and how would Earth, isolated and unprepared, face their wrath? Create file description. Creating Part 2 of the Sci-Fi Story. Path, MNT, User Data, Outputs, The Council, Deceived Humanity, Part 2 done MD, File, Text. The Council deceived humanity, now we face their wrath in Part 2, the revelation, the quantum engines of the emissary hummed with strain as Captain Lin executed a series of random jumps to shake any Council pursuit. Ambassador Marcus Reynolds stood in the ship's secure analysis chamber, watching as Dr. Eliza Morgan carefully inserted the mysterious data crystal into a shielded reader. The crystal's encryption is unlike anything in our databases, Morgan explained, her fingers moving rapidly across the holographic interface. The young physicist had been Earth's leading researcher on quantum technologies before being assigned to the diplomatic mission. It's using a variant of Council diplomatic ciphers, but with modifications I've never seen. Reynolds paced the small chamber. Can you access it? Morgan's eyes narrowed in concentration. I think, yes, there's a hidden authentication key embedded in the structure itself. Clever. The display flickered, then stabilized as data began streaming across multiple screens. By all the stars, breathed Lieutenant Davis as the information revealed itself. This is everything. Internal Council communications dating back centuries. Reynolds leaned forward, his diplomatic composure momentarily shattered. The crystal contained classified Council records, communications, directives, and secret protocols related specifically to Earth and humanity. As they delved deeper, a pattern of deliberate deception emerged. They've been systematically suppressing our technological advancement, Morgan said, her voice tight with anger. These records show they've been intercepting and altering official communications to Earth since first contact. Directive 5729 was never sent to us because they wanted us to develop quantum displacement technology. And they wanted us to violate a rule we didn't know existed, Reynolds realized. But why? The answer came 3 hours later as they approached the Proxima outpost, a small trading station established in the shadow of Alpha Centauri, run by a coalition of independent merchants outside direct Council control. Morgan had assembled the senior staff in the conference room, her face pale with exhaustion and shock. The Council fears us, she stated without preamble, not for what we've done, but for what we might become. She projected a series of brain scans comparing human neural patterns to those of other species. My team on Earth discovered something unusual about human neurological structure 6 months ago. We can interface directly with quantum fields in ways no other known species can. We kept it classified, not even sharing it with the Council. Security Chief Thomas frowned. And how did they find out? And they've had spies on Earth from the beginning, Morgan replied, displaying another document from the crystal. But that's not the worst part. The Council has done this before, to at least 7 other species. They identify civilizations with potential to threaten their power, manufacture reasons to isolate them, then eventually either subjugate them or eliminate them entirely. Captain Lin, normally stoic, slammed his fist on the table, and Earth is next. Reynolds studied the final document Morgan had highlighted, a comprehensive Council plan to harvest Earth's resources and relocate humans to controlled habitats as Rios-protected species, once the quarantine barrier was fully established. How long do we have? He asked quietly. Morgan's expression was grim. The dimensional barrier takes approximately 30 days to fully form. It's already begun. That's why we lost communication with Earth, but it's not complete yet. The emissary docked at Proxima Outpost 6 hours later. Reynolds led a small team through the crowded, chaotic station, a patchwork structure built from salvaged ships and materials. Here, among the margins of galactic society, information flowed freely, unfiltered by Council censors. They met their contact in a secluded chamber deep within the station's commercial sector. Trader Kell was a grizzled veteran of the independent merchant fleet, one of the few non-humans Reynolds truly trusted. The news from Earth is bad, Kell growled after they exchanged secure verification codes. The barrier is forming faster than standard protocols would suggest. Council's putting everything they have into it. Partial comms are still possible through the gaps, but not for long. We need to get a message through, Reynolds urged. Earth's defense forces need to know what's coming. Kell nodded. I can arrange it, but it'll cost you. Council's placed a bounty on your ship and crew, highest I've seen in 20 cycles. While Reynolds negotiated with Kell, Morgan slipped away to meet with an underground network of scientists who operated beyond Council oversight. She returned 4 hours later with crucial information. The barrier has weaknesses, she announced to the assembled team. It's based on 7th-generation quantum folding, technology the Council believes is beyond our understanding. But with what we've learned from the crystal and my team's research on Earth. She paused, a determined gleam in her eyes. I think we can disrupt it. Maybe even use it against them. Reynolds' urgent message reached Earth through Kell's network of independent couriers. The response came 12 hours later, fragmented and corrupted by the strengthening barrier, but clear enough. Earth's defense coalition had mobilized all resources and was already working to counter the barrier using Morgan's transmitted specifications. The emissary departed Proxima Outpost with supplies, modified equipment, and 3 volunteer specialists from the scientific underground. They set course for the edge of the solar system, where they might find a weak point in the forming barrier. 2 days into their journey, alarm systems blared throughout the ship. Council interceptors, shouted Captain Lin from the bridge. 3 vessels Enforcer class. They've locked onto our signature dice. Reynolds rushed to the bridge as the ship executed evasive maneuvers. How did they find us? Oh, they must have a tracker aboard, Thomas said grimly, already initiating internal security sweeps. No, Morgan interrupted, studying the sensor data. They're tracking our quantum wake. The modifications we made at Proxima have a distinctive signature. The emissaries shuddered as the first volley of Council weapons fire grazed their shields. Captain Lin's hands flew across the controls, pushing the engines beyond safety parameters. We can't outrun them, Lin stated, his voice steady despite the situation. Not all 3. Reynolds made a swift decision. We don't need to outrun them. We just need to reach the barrier formation zone. Morgan, can your disruptor work if we deploy it now? It's not fully calibrated, as she warned. But yes, theoretically. We'd be gambling everything on one attempt. And the story of humanity in space so far. Reynolds replied with a tight smile. Do it. The next 20 minutes were chaos as the emissary pushed toward the outer edge of the solar system, taking hit after hit from the pursuing Council ships. Systems failed across the vessel, and casualties mounted among the crew. In the makeshift laboratory they'd established in the cargo bay, Morgan and her team worked frantically to prepare the quantum disruptor, a device that looked deceptively simple, a crystalline sphere surrounded by a lattice of thin metallic filaments. It's ready, Morgan announced as another impact rocked the ship. But someone needs to manually calibrate it at the moment of deployment. The automated systems can't handle the variables. I'll do it, volunteered one of the scientists from Proxima, an older woman named Faria. My species can withstand the quantum flux better than humans. There was no time to argue. The emissary reached the edge of the barrier formation zone, a shimmering curtain of energy visibly coalescing across the vast emptiness of space. Deploying now, Captain Lin announced. The cargo bay doors opened and Faria, secured only by a tether, guided the disruptor into position. As Council weapons fire intensified around them, she made the final adjustments, then triggered the device. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy erupted from the small sphere, expanding outward in a rippling wave that intersected with the barrier. Where they met, distortions appeared, tears in the fabric of the dimensional wall. It's working, Morgan exclaimed, monitoring the readings. The barrier formation is destabilizing. But the victory was incomplete. While the disruptor had created vulnerabilities in the barrier, the overall structure remained, and the Council ships were still in pursuit. Get us through one of those ruptures, Reynolds ordered. We need to reach Earth. Captain Lin navigated toward the largest rupture, the ship groaning under the strain. As they approached the tear in the barrier, sensors detected massive energy signatures from Earth's direction. Earth's Defense Coalition, Morgan whispered in awe. They're attacking the barrier from the other side. The emissary slipped through the rupture just as it began to close, leaving the Council pursuers trapped on the other side. As they emerged into familiar space, the communications array suddenly blazed with activity. Ambassador Reynolds' wing came a voice over the secure channel. This is Admiral Helena Vega of Earth Defense. Welcome home. We received your warning and we've been busy. Create file description. Creating Part 3 of the Sci-Fi Story. Path, MNT, User Data, Outputs, The Council, Deceived Humanity, Part 3.md, File Text. The Council deceived humanity. Now we face their wrath. Part 3. The Resistance. Thur. War room deep beneath Earth's unified defense headquarters buzzed with activity. 3 weeks had passed since the emissary's return, and the dimensional barrier now encircled the solar system, a shimmering wall visible even to the naked eye from Earth's surface at night. But it was incomplete. Dr. Morgan's disruptor technology, combined with Earth's defensive countermeasures, had created several stable ruptures, small tears in the fabric of the barrier that allowed limited passage. Ambassador. Reynolds stood before the holographic display showing real-time updates of the barrier structure. Beside him, Admiral Thomas Reeves, a battle-hardened veteran with more gray than black in his close-cropped hair, studied the tactical overlay. The Council will be confused by our continued access to interstellar space, but Reeves noted. They expected us to be completely isolated by now. This confusion buys us time. Reynolds agreed. But not much. Once they realize the barrier failed, they'll send their enforcement fleet. Dr. Morgan entered the room accompanied by her research team. Dark circles underlined her eyes, evidence of the sleepless weeks she had devoted to analyzing the Council's technology. We've completed our assessment of the quantum displacement ships, she announced. We can fit 30 vessels with the technology within 2 weeks. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. That's faster than projected, Morgan nodded. We found a way to simplify the quantum matrix. The ships won't be as stable for long jumps as the Council's vessels, but they'll be faster in short bursts and nearly undetectable to their standard sensors. Admiral Reeves stepped forward, activating a different section of the holographic display. Then it's time to implement Operation Shadow Strike. Ambassador Reynolds, Dr. Morgan, you've both been briefed on the concept. Now I need your formal input before we present to the World Security Council. The plan Reeves outlined was audacious. While Earth's main forces defended the solar system, a small fleet of quantum displacement ships would conduct guerrilla operations throughout Council space. Their objectives: gather intelligence, disrupt Council operations, and potentially find allies among other species who might have suffered similar deception. We'll need to establish hidden bases outside the barrier, Reynolds noted. The Kuiper Belt outposts won't be sufficient for extended operations. It's already in progress, Reeves replied. We've identified 3 potential locations in nearby systems with minimal Council presence. Morgan tapped her datapad, adding information to the display. There's another factor to consider. My analysis of the Council record suggests at least 7 other species were targeted with similar deception tactics. Some were completely subjugated, but others might have survivors who would be valuable allies. 2 days later, the World Security Council unanimously approved Operation Shadow Strike. Reynolds found himself appointed as mission commander, his diplomatic experience deemed essential for potential first contact with other deceived species. Morgan would serve as his second, bringing her scientific expertise to the field. Their flagship, the Defiance, was Earth's newest vessel, hastily retrofitted with the experimental quantum displacement system. Its crew represented Earth's finest, battle-tested veterans alongside brilliant young specialists like Lieutenant Kai Yamato, whose innovative approach to quantum communications had revolutionized their ability to coordinate through the barrier ruptures. System check complete, Ambassador Captain Ortega reported as Reynolds entered the bridge for the first time. All stations report ready for departure. Reynolds took in the advanced bridge, so different from the diplomatic vessel he had commanded just weeks ago. This is your ship, Captain. I'm here to lead the mission, not to override your authority. Ortega nodded appreciatively. Understood, sir, though I believe protocol now requires I address you as Commander Reynolds. Let's get underway, Captain. Reynolds replied with a small smile. We have a galaxy to shake up. The Defiance, along with 5 smaller vessels, slipped through the largest rupture in the barrier 2 days later. They immediately engaged their quantum displacement drives, vanishing from conventional detection before any Council monitoring post could register their presence. Their first target was a small, Council outpost in the Tau Ceti system, a communications relay station with minimal defenses. The strike was swift and precise. Within 30 minutes, they had neutralized the station's security, downloaded its complete database, and disappeared back into quantum space, leaving confused Council personnel wondering what had hit them. Similar operations followed over the next 3 weeks. Each strike yielded valuable intelligence about Council operations, defensive capabilities, and the locations of major fleet deployments. But the most significant discovery came from an agricultural monitoring station near the fringes of Council space. "These records confirm it," Morgan said, reviewing the captured data in the Defiance's secure analysis room. "The Arxan civilization wasn't wiped out 2 centuries ago, as Council history claims. They were quarantined just like us, but their barrier was complete." Reynolds studied the star chart she had highlighted. "And you believe they're still there? After 200 years? And the monitoring station has been registering energy signatures consistent with advanced technology within the barrier region. The Council dismissed it as instrument error, but..." She pointed to a series of anomalous readings. "This isn't error. It's deliberate signal masking." The decision to investigate was unanimous among the mission's senior staff. The Arxan had been renowned for their advanced understanding of dimensional physics before their supposed extinction. If they had survived, they might possess knowledge crucial to humanity's fight against the Council. The journey to the Arxan quarantine zone took 5 days. Even with the quantum displacement drive pushing beyond recommended limits, they arrived at a barrier similar to the one encircling Earth, though this one showed no signs of ruptures or weaknesses. "No response to our transmissions," Lieutenant Yamato reported after repeated attempts to communicate through the barrier. "If anyone's in there, they're not answering. Or they can't hear us," Morgan suggested. "This barrier has been active for 2 centuries. It might block conventional signals entirely." It was Yamato who proposed the solution, using modified quantum displacement pulses as a form of code, sending vibrations through the fabric of the barrier itself. For hours, they transmitted a simple mathematical sequence, universal language that any advanced civilization would recognize as artificial and deliberate. On the 2nd day, they received a response, the same sequence reversed and doubled, a clear sign of intelligence. "They understand," Yamato said, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. "And they're responding on the same channel. We can establish communication." What followed was a painstaking process of building a rudimentary language for exchange, gradually increasing in complexity until basic concepts could be shared. The Arxan, it seemed, had indeed survived behind their barrier and had spent 2 centuries developing technology specifically designed to counter Council methods. Done their asking. "If we can create a temporary rupture in their barrier," Yamato translated after a particularly complex exchange. "They say they've tried for decades without success from the inside." Morgan studied the barrier's resonance patterns. "Yeah, we can try. The quantum disruptor technology might work, but we'd need to calibrate it precisely to their barrier's frequency." "Do it," Reynolds ordered, "but maintain combat readiness. We don't know for certain that whoever's responding is actually Arxan." The operation to breach the Arxan barrier proved more difficult than expected. 3 attempts failed, each one potentially alerting Council monitoring systems to their presence. On the 4th attempt, using modifications suggested by the mysterious beings inside, a small rupture formed just large enough for a single ship to pass through. "We're receiving a transmission," Yamato announced as a small vessel emerged from the rupture. Visual and audio data. The view screen activated to show a being with iridescent scaled skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, unmistakably Arxan, matching the historical records. When it spoke, the universal translator rendered its complex tonal language into standard Earth English. "We are the Arxan remnant," the being stated. "I am Sentinel Zoral, appointed to meet those who would breach our prison." "You are human?" The final word was spoken with particular interest. Reynolds stepped forward. "I am Commander Marcus Reynolds of Earth. We too have been deceived and quarantined by the Galactic Council." Create file description. Creating Part 4 of the Sci-Fi Story. Path and MNT user data outputs the Council deceived humanity Part 4.md. File text. The Council deceived humanity. Now we face their wrath. Part 4. The counterattack. The observation deck of Earth's orbital defense platform Alpha provided a panoramic view of the unprecedented activity surrounding humanity's homeworld. Commander Marcus Reynolds stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching as hundreds of vessels, from massive battleships to agile fighters, moved in coordinated patterns, preparing for the coming conflict. Impressive, isn't it? Dr. Morgan stepped beside him, her gaze following his. 3 weeks ago, half these ships didn't exist. Reynolds nodded. Earth's industrial capacity had been redirected entirely to defense, with factories working around the clock to construct vessels equipped with the hybrid technology that merged human quantum innovations with Arxan shielding systems. The Council underestimated us, he said quietly. They expected the barrier to hold, for us to be trapped and helpless when their fleet arrived. They've underestimated every species that challenged them, came a resonant voice from behind them. Sentinel Zoral approached, the Arxan's scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of Earth visible through the viewport. It is their greatest weakness and our greatest advantage. The three stood in silence, watching the military preparations. Beyond Earth's defensive perimeter, the dimensional barrier still shimmered, its ruptures now carefully maintained and monitored, serving as both exit points for their forces and potential choke points for the approaching Council armada. Admiral Reeves is ready for us, Reynolds said finally, checking the notification on his wrist display. It's time to review the final defense plan. The war room was crowded when they arrived. Admiral Reeves stood at the central holographic display, surrounded by senior military commanders, scientific advisors, and representatives from the Arxan and 3 other allied species who had joined the resistance against the Council. The Council fleet will arrive in 48 hours. Reeves began without preamble, activating the tactical display. 200 vessels, including heavy dreadnoughts equipped with dimensional disruptors capable of collapsing our barrier ruptures. Their strategy is simple: seal us in, then methodically destroy our defenses. That our strategy is considerably less simple, he continued, zooming the display to show the defensive formations. Thanks to Dr. Morgan and the Arxan scientists, we now present our primary countermeasure, the Quantum Interface Network. Morgan stepped forward, bringing up the technical specifications. The Qian allows human operators with the compatible neurological structure to directly interface with our ship's quantum systems. In practical terms, this means a single pilot can control multiple vessels simultaneously, coordinating their movements and weapons with unprecedented precision. Murmurs spread through the assembled commanders. The concept was revolutionary and risky. We've tested the system extensively, Morgan assured them. The neural load is sustainable for up to 6 hours before operator fatigue becomes critical. With our current number of compatible pilots, we can effectively control 70% of our unmanned vessels. Reynolds watched the reactions carefully. Some of the military commanders remained skeptical, but the potential tactical advantage was undeniable. A fleet that moved with the unified purpose and coordination of a single mind would be unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. Admiral Reeves outlined the rest of the strategy. Earth's manned vessels would engage the Council fleet directly at the barrier ruptures, while the QN-controlled ships would execute complex maneuvers impossible for conventional pilots. Meanwhile, a strike team led by Reynolds would use the battle as cover to infiltrate the Council's command. Dreadnought's intelligence suggests the vessel carries the Council's central archive, a database containing the complete records of their operations throughout the galaxy, Reeves explained. Accessing it would provide us with critical information about their weaknesses, as well as evidence of their systematic deception to share with other galactic civilizations. The briefing continued for hours, detailing every aspect of the coming battle. When it finally concluded, Reynolds found himself approached by Lieutenant Kai Yamato, who had been assigned to his infiltration team. Commander, I've completed the analysis of the Council's communication patterns you requested, Yamato reported, handing over a datapad. There's something unusual you should see. Reynolds reviewed the data as they walked, his brow furrowing with each swipe across the screen. These transmission frequencies, they're directed toward a location outside known Council space, and they've increased by 300% since our first strikes against their outposts. Exactly, Yamato nodded. Whatever they're communicating with, it's not on any official star chart, and it's not part of their regular command structure. The discovery added another layer of mystery to the Council's operations, but there was no time to investigate further. The countdown to the Council fleet's arrival had begun, and final preparations consumed every available moment. 18 hours later, Reynolds stood in the hangar bay of the Defiance, watching as his infiltration team made final checks on their equipment. The strike vessel they would use, a modified Arxon scout ship with enhanced stealth capabilities, waited nearby, its organic-looking hull gleaming under the bay lights. Dr. Morgan approached, now dressed in the same tactical gear as the rest of the team. Despite Reynolds' initial objections, she had insisted on joining the mission. Her expertise with quantum systems would be essential for accessing the Council's archives. "The Kian is online," she reported. 30 operators have successfully linked with their assigned vessels. The system is performing beyond expectations. Reynolds nodded, watching as the last of their equipment was loaded. "And you're certain about joining this mission? Your knowledge might be more valuable here, coordinating the defense." Morgan's expression hardened. "My knowledge is precisely why I need to be on that archive ship, Commander. No one else can interpret their data storage systems as quickly. Besides," she added with a faint smile, "I've spent years studying the Council's technology. I want to see it for myself." The alert came sooner than expected. Just 12 hours before the calculated arrival time, long-range sensors detected the Council fleet emerging from dimensional transit near the outer edge of the solar system. "They're trying to catch us unprepared," Admiral Reeves noted from the Central Command Center. "Fortunately, we've been ready for days. All vessels assume defensive positions. QN operators begin synchronization sequences." The observation deck provided a clear view as Earth's defense fleet moved into formation. The ships controlled by QN operators were immediately identifiable by their perfect synchronization, moving like schools of fish through the void. "The Council vessels are approaching the Alpha rupture," reported the tactical officer. "They're deploying dimensional stabilizers, attempting to seal the breach, and right on schedule," Reeves muttered. "Deploy countermeasures. Dr. Morgan, are your people ready?" Morgan nodded from her position at the quantum monitoring station. "When fully operational, operators report optimal neural synchronization." What followed was unlike any battle in human history. As the Council fleet engaged the dimensional stabilizers, Earth's kin-controlled vessels executed maneuvers that seemed to defy physics, appearing to react before Council weapons fired, moving in complex patterns that conventional tactical doctrine would consider impossible. The Council commanders, faced with this unprecedented coordination, initially fell back to regroup. It was in this moment of confusion that Reynolds' strike team launched, their Arxan vessel slipping through the chaos of battle using advanced stealth technology. Council Command Dreadnought identified. Lieutenant Yamato reported from the navigation console. "They're maintaining position behind their front lines, coordinating the assault." Reynolds studied the tactical display. "Plot an approach through Sector 7. The battle density there should provide additional cover for our approach." The journey to the Council Dreadnought was harrowing. Twice they narrowly avoided detection by patrol vessels, and once they were forced to power down all systems and drift as a Council cruiser passed within kilometers of their position. "We're within range of the Dreadnought's security perimeter," Yamato announced after nearly an hour of careful maneuvering. "Detecting multiple sensor arrays and automated defense platforms. Activate the Arxan mimetic system," Reynolds ordered. The ship's exterior shimmered, its energy signature and visual profile altering to match that of a Council support vessel. It was an imperfect disguise that would fail under close inspection, but might get them past the outer security layers, transmitting falsified identification codes. Yamato continued, his fingers dancing across the console. "And we're clear. Their automated systems have flagged us as a maintenance vessel returning from the front. They approached a secondary docking bay, used primarily for supply transfers and damaged fighter recovery." Create file description. Creating Part 5 of the Sci-Fi Story. Path. MNT user data. Outputs. The Council. Deceived. Humanity. Part 5.md. File. Text. The Council deceived humanity. Now we face their wrath. Part 5. The Reckoning. Strategy room aboard Earth's orbital command station pulsed with urgent activity. Three-dimensional tactical displays showed the ongoing battle. Council forces pressing relentlessly against Earth's defenses, while the dimensional barrier flickered with unstable energy. Commander Marcus Reynolds stood at the central table, still wearing the battle-scarred uniform from the Archive infiltration mission completed just hours ago. The Council's main fleet is regrouping, Admiral Reeves observed, manipulating the holographic display to highlight enemy movements. They're consolidating around their remaining dreadnoughts and preparing for another push. Dr. Morgan looked up from the data terminal where she had been analyzing the Archive information. We don't have much time. According to these records, the Council has deployed their elite guard to the Nexium facility. They know we've discovered their weakness. Reynolds studied the coordinates they had extracted from the Archive. The Nexium facility existed in a hidden pocket of dimensionally folded space, technically within the galaxy, but undetectable by conventional sensors. It was there that the Council stored both their supply of the element critical to their immortality and the consciousness cores that preserved their original minds through body. Transfers on we need to divide our forces, Reynolds decided. The main fleet continues to defend Earth while a strike force targets the Nexium facility. Admiral Reeves frowned. We're already outnumbered. Splitting our forces could leave Earth vulnerable. Not if we make them split their forces as well, Reynolds countered. We launch a major assault on their command station, make them think that's our primary target. Meanwhile, a smaller team slips away to hit the Nexium facility. Morgan nodded in agreement. The facility is their true vulnerability. Without Nexium, they can't transfer consciousness. They become mortal, limited to their current bodies. The plan took shape rapidly. Earth's defense fleet would launch an all-out attack on the Council's central station, drawing the bulk of their forces. Meanwhile, a small strike team led by Reynolds would use the most advanced stealth vessel in Earth's arsenal, enhanced with Arxan technology, to penetrate the dimensional pocket containing the Nexium facility. Preparation consumed the next 12 hours. The stealth vessel, christened Shadow Step, was equipped with a modified quantum displacement drive capable of navigating the unusual dimensional properties surrounding the hidden facility. Dr. Morgan oversaw the installation of specialized equipment designed to neutralize the Nexium storage systems, while Lieutenant Yamato, his shoulder bandaged from the wound inflicted by the traitor Varro, prepared the advanced communication array they would need to coordinate with Earth's forces. The captured Council spy, Varro, proved unexpectedly useful during interrogation. His fanatical belief in the Council's promises had crumbled when faced with evidence of their systematic deception. They've been lying to everyone, even their own loyal servants, he revealed bitterly. They promised immortality to those who serve faithfully, but the Archive data shows they've never shared it with anyone outside the original Council members. Thousands of loyal agents died believing they would be elevated, but it was always a lie. Armed with access codes and security protocols extracted from Varro, the mission had a significantly improved chance of success. Reynolds selected his team carefully, 12 specialists including Morgan, Yamato, and 2 Arxan technicians whose understanding of dimensional physics would be crucial. As final preparations concluded, Reynolds stood in the observation bay, watching Earth's fleet assemble for the diversionary attack. The blue curve of humanity's homeworld filled the lower portion of the viewport, a constant reminder of what they fought to protect. Admiral Reeves joined him, his weathered face solemn. The World Security Council has approved your mission parameters, Commander. You have full authorization to proceed. Reynolds nodded. And if we fail? And then we fight to the last ship, Reeves replied without hesitation. Humanity won't be quietly quarantined or harvested, but I don't believe it will come to that. He extended his hand. Good hunting, Commander. The diversionary attack launched with overwhelming force. Earth's fleet, supplemented by vessels from their growing alliance of liberated species, struck the Council's central station with unprecedented coordination. The Quinn operators, now numbering over 50, controlled hundreds of unmanned craft that moved with perfect synchronization, confounding Council tactical systems. Under cover of this massive assault, the Shadow Step slipped away from Earth, its advanced stealth systems rendering it virtually invisible, even to the sophisticated sensors of nearby Council vessels. Once clear of the main battle zone, Yamato activated the specialized quantum displacement drive, and the ship vanished into dimensional space. The journey to the Nexium facility took 3 hours. Navigating the twisted space around the dimensional pocket required precision that tested even the advanced capabilities of their hybrid drive. When they finally emerged, the facility loomed before them, a massive structure unlike typical council architecture. Where council stations tended toward crystalline elegance, this facility was brutally functional. A fortress designed for a single purpose. No immediate alert, Yamato reported from the sensor station. Their external systems haven't detected us. Arxon stealth field holding at 97% efficiency, added one of the Arxon technicians. But it will degrade if we remain stationary too long. Reynolds studied the facility's layout, comparing it to the schematics they had extracted from the archive. We'll dock at the maintenance port on the southern quadrant. Security is lightest there, according to Vero's information. The Shadow Step approached cautiously, using minimal power to drift toward the designated port. As they neared, Morgan used Vero's access codes to transmit authorized identification signals, masking their true identity. Receiving automated clearance, she confirmed as the docking mechanisms engaged. No human or council intervention yet. The team deployed with practiced efficiency, securing the immediate docking area before proceeding deeper into the facility. The corridors were eerily silent, with only occasional maintenance drones passing on automated rounds. This place is running on minimal personnel, Reynolds observed as they moved toward the central chamber indicated in the schematics. The council keeps access extremely limited, and with good reason, Morgan replied, scanning the environment with specialized equipment. I'm detecting quantum resonance patterns consistent with consciousness storage, massive amounts. This facility houses their immortality. They encountered their first resistance at a security checkpoint leading to the main storage area, a squad of elite council guards equipped with advanced combat systems. The firefight was brief but intense, with Reynolds' team using focused electromagnetic pulses to disable their opponent's energy weapons before neutralizing them with precision fire. We need to move quickly, Reynolds urged as they secured the checkpoint. That alert will have triggered automated systems throughout the facility. The central chamber, when they finally breached it, left them momentarily awestruck. A vast circular room stretched before them, its walls lined with thousands of glowing containers. Each housed a small crystalline structure, pulsing with internal light and suspended in a field of shimmering energy. Consciousness cores, Morgan whispered, approaching the nearest container. Each one contains the original consciousness of a council member. They transfer to new bodies when needed, but these cores preserve their true selves. At the center of the chamber stood a column of swirling blue-green material, Nexium in its raw, energized state. The rare element glowed with an inner light that shifted and pulsed like a living thing. The consciousness transfer requires Nexium to maintain continuity, Morgan explained, consulting her scanner. Without it, the transfer process fails. They've been carefully conserving their supply for millennia. Reynolds began placing the specialized disruptors they had brought, devices designed to interrupt the stasis fields maintaining the consciousness cores. How long to neutralize the entire facility? 20 minutes to set all charges and ensure complete neutralization, Morgan replied, already working on the central control systems. They had barely begun when facility alarms blared. On the security monitors, they saw council vessels approaching, dozens of them breaking away from the battle at the central station. They've figured out our real target, Reynolds realized. Yamato, what's our status with Earth's fleet? The lieutenant's fingers flew across his communication panel. The diversionary attack is succeeding beyond expectations. Council forces are in disarray, but they've dispatched their elite guard squadron to protect this facility. How long until they arrive? 15 minutes maximum. Reynolds made a swift decision. Continue the neutralization process. We need to complete the mission before they reach us.